Welcome to our next video within CIMA E3 Enterprise Strategy paper. This video will be devoted to the methods of successful change implementation. In the previous video, we discussed reasons why people resist change. Now, when we know them, we can plan for the successful change. Well, in the express notes on page 37, you have a list or a sequence of activities to do before the project is launched. First of all, obviously, you identify the required changes. You decide what is the most important in them, and then who are the key stakeholders in those changes. Now, if you want to have a successful project, then definitely you win the support of key individuals. You need to win them because they will need to give support back to you. Then you identify the obstacles in the way, you calculate the risk and costs of the project. And finally, you have to think of why change will be resisted in details. You know why people resist change in general. Now let's talk about details. Who may resist and why they may resist that change. And you figure out the ways to manage it. Who needs to be consulted? Where you want negotiations, right? You may have consultations, maybe negotiations. Or maybe all that is needed for some people is a little bit of explanation and information. What you want to have on that project is willing and effective cooperation of employees. Because if you are there on your own and you have all the employees against you, you will not make a change. That's one thing for sure. In order to get the employees on your side, you have to communicate with them. Everyone affected by the change must be clear about what are the changes. They hate surprises. If they find out later on that what you said was just half true, or you told them 50% of what's going to happen, they will resist that change even more at a later stage when it's too late to convince them that you're still right. What is the time scale? People don't like quick changes. They would prefer to have that spread over a longer period of time. Now, you don't have to agree for it because obviously when the change is to be made, it's good to be made. Now, why they should do it? Definitely the thing that will be necessary to explain to them. And now, what the biggest mistake here is that things are explained to people, but only from one angle. They are explained in the same way to everyone. Now, why should we do it? Because it will reduce costs. Well, that's a bad answer. Well, it may be a good answer for accountants, but it's a bad answer for marketing people, bad answer for HR people. A, they won't understand it, and B, they will say, oh, of course, when it's about reducing costs, it's always us. Yeah, so come up with more than just one reason. Yeah, reduction of cost is one of the reasons why we're doing it. Don't hide it. But there are other reasons. We want to be more efficient. We want to have better procedures. We want to address our client needs and be specific because people won't buy it if you just sell them rubbish. And finally, what will the major effects be? All right, so who will be affected? what will change effectively. Now, how do you communicate it with people? Well, first of all, you may tell it to them, but that's probably not the best idea to win their support. So some of them will need to be negotiated. With some, you might discuss, because you have to remain flexible. Don't fix yourself on some solutions. Actually, they might come with better ones. So don't lock yourself in it. So how do you do it? Well, politicians say if you have an opponent, just try to give him a job. Or so if you have someone that resists that change, maybe put him on a team. Maybe this will convince that person. Oh, of course, unless you believe he will then just stop the project. Then obviously you may have stronger internal communication. How do you do it? Obviously intranet, project, mail shots. It's easy, it's obvious, but you'd be surprised how many times people just forget about it. The project team says, oh, this is a very good change. This is excellent. Excellent. We love that change. They forget to tell it to anyone else. And people are just resistant to change. That's all. Negotiations, we talked about it. Action planning. Right? People need to know what's going to be. It ties in with the time scale. Right? They need to know what's going to happen and when. And that puts them in a slightly more comfort than without it. You may appoint change agents if there are important people that are listened to in the organization, make them a change agent so that their example flashes on other people. And obviously sometimes you have to manipulate people. You have to give them something when you take something away from them. Yeah. Maybe fulfill their dreams. I always wanted to have that office or desk next to the window. And you will say, well, as part of our restructuring, actually, you're going to get that desk near the window. So some manipulation could be involved as well. Now, going away from the negotiating with employees, we will talk now about the support from the top. Extremely important factor in any change. You will not introduce any change unless you have a clear support from the very top in your organization. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Employees need to feel that this change has a total support of the top, because then it's more difficult for them to create hurdles. Even subconsciously, it's more difficult. They should not do it then, because they're acting against their bosses, right? So they will not do it. So that is why you have those steering committees with top executives sitting on them, and they should act decisively. They should show they know what they're doing, because otherwise no one else would believe it. Now they need to consider how employees will be affected. They want to involve employees in the change, and they need to consult and inform frequently. This is, in your organizations, you might have probably received an email or two from someone in the organization you don't even know, but you know that person is sitting at the very top, and that person will give you an update on project X. Right? That's how you consult and inform frequently, and that's how you show the involvement of the top executives. And finally, you have to be firm in your willingness to affect the change, but flexible in a way that you listen to people, and when you see that something was completely misconceived, you can still make a correction, an adjustment to the plan. And finally, you monitor whether the change is introduced the way it was supposed to be introduced, because very often while you change the project on the way, the ultimate result is not what you expected at the very beginning.